again, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing 3 easy and delicious dinner recipes. And they're all in the slow cooker. The first recipe I'm going to be making tonight is called Crock Pot Chicken and Dressing Casserole. I think this sounded really good. Sounds like Thanksgiving, so I think we're gonna like it. So here's a look at the ingredients that we're gonna need for this recipe. Has a few different seasonings. Already went ahead and chopped up some veggies. And now we're gonna get it assembled. So first we're just gonna give the inside of our crock pot a good spray with some cooking spray. So this recipe, it does require a tiny bit of prep work, but you could totally do this the night before if you wanted to, and just have this part done, put it in a bowl, and then throw it in the crock pot later. So we're gonna melt our butter in a little saucepan here. I'm just doing half of what the recipe calls for. I think that'll be enough. And we're just gonna saute our celery and our onions just to kind of soften those up a little bit. So while our veggies are sauteing up, I went ahead and placed 3 chicken breasts in my slow cooker here. And so next we're gonna add all of our seasonings that the recipe calls for. The recipe calls for 1 teaspoon of poultry seasoning. I think that is actually quite a lot. So I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it. Just put a little of each. I think a teaspoon would be a lot, like I said, especially considering all the other stuff we're adding in. Also calls for lemon pepper. Just gonna do a little sprinkle of that. Next, we're gonna add some garlic powder. So next to a bowl, we're gonna actually add both of our soups, so the cream of chicken and the cream of celery. And then we're gonna mix those with the chicken gravy mix. Okay, now we're gonna take 3/4 of this soup mixture and just pour it over top of the chicken breast. So basically you just wanna leave a little bit in your bowl. Spread that around evenly as possible. Chicken broth, I didn't even have it sitting out in my ingredients. You're supposed to add a cup in with the 2 soups and the chicken gravy. I totally forgot, so I'm just gonna kind of pour a little bit in here just to kind of keep everything moist. Next, right on top of that, we're just gonna add 1 packet of stovetop cornbread stuffing mix. All right, so next, we're gonna add the cooked vegetables right on top of this. And y'all, go and read this recipe if you feel like you might make it. I totally did not assemble this at all how the recipe said. You're supposed to mix the dressing mix, stuffing mix, with these vegetables and the rest of that remaining soup mix. Oh well, I think it'll still taste good. All right, let me go ahead and add the rest of my soup mixture on top of here. And that's it. I have a really good feeling that our house is gonna smell really, really good in a few hours. All right, so the recipe says you can either do 6 hours on low or on high for 3 hours. I'm gonna start on high for about 3 hours because it's a little bit in the afternoon, a little later in the afternoon. And then if I need to come and turn it on low, if it starts getting a little bit brown, I'll do that. All right, just wanted to update y'all. I just checked it and it was getting a little bit done around the edges, but I just kind of took my fork and ran it around the edge. But it is smelling really, really good all through the house. It's been on high for about an entire 3 hours. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it on low. I'm gonna let it keep cooking. It's already 6:30, but we'll just eat a little bit later tonight. Alright y'all, it's time to eat. We have the chicken and stuffing casserole. I made some mashed potatoes with leftover potatoes from those potato skins the other day. So I did that on the side and then just sauteed up some fresh green beans. And that is our dinner. Okay, I look weird with the hat shadow, but update on the chicken, really, really good. We all like it. Definitely has a lot of flavor. It's really, really moist with everything going on in there. But I will say I didn't add the salt. I would recommend not adding the salt. It says to in the recipe it's salty enough with the stuffing mix and the chicken broth and everything like that. So I think it would definitely be too salty if you added in the salt. And also, seasoning wise, just do a little sprinkle of each because that stuffing mix has its own seasoning. So I think just adding a little of each is plenty. I don't know if it would be good with more than that. But it's really flavorful. Definitely good. Everybody likes it, right? Everybody likes it, so hope you guys try it. Okay, the next slow cooker recipe we're going to be making today is called Smothered Fritos Taco Bowls. Yum, how good does that sound? So here's a look at the ingredients. Really, really few ingredients. I think it's going to be really easy. So you want to use, the recipe says 1.5 pounds. I believe this is 1.25 pounds. Of ground turkey. You can use ground beef if you want to, any kind of ground meat basically. You're gonna dice up 1 onion, 1 taco seasoning mix packet, and then over here I do have a couple of substitutions. The recipe calls for 2 of these cans of Bush's Best chili beans. They're pinto beans with chili sauce, and I only ordered 1 of those, so I had another can of just regular Bush's pinto beans. I'm just gonna add that in and put a little extra chili powder. But of course, I'll have all the original recipes that I'm talking about in this video in the description box. So no worries, just go down there, click the link, and you can find out how to make the original. And then also, we're gonna add 1 small can of tomato sauce. And then another substitution I'm gonna have to do, I ordered a can of Rotel with my grocery delivery order, and I guess they forgot it. But I do have a small can of diced green chili, so that's basically the same thing. I just don't have any tomatoes, which is fine with me. So I'm just gonna add that in instead of the Rotel. And then after this cooks up for a few hours, we're gonna add some yummy toppings. There's where the Fritos come into play. And then once it's done, I'll show you how we plate everything up. I'm sure we'll add cheese and sour cream and maybe some lime. I don't know, but I know it's gonna be so good. So let's get this in the slow cooker. Okay, the first thing we're gonna do is brown up our ground meat, our ground turkey. And I'm gonna add my 1 chopped onion in here along with that. Alright, so our ground turkey and onions are browned up. Just gonna give my slow cooker a little spray with cooking spray. We're gonna add the ground turkey and onions back on in. Sorry if y'all hear my dishwasher running in the background. So then next, we're just gonna add the 1 packet of taco seasoning. Next, we're gonna add the can of chili beans. The recipe says to not drain them. I'm just gonna dump them in. We're gonna do the same thing with my can of pinto beans. If you're following the original recipe, just do both cans of your chili beans. All right, next we're gonna dump in that little can of green chilies, or you can do your Rotel. We're gonna pour in the tomato sauce. And the recipe calls for 1/2 cup of water. I'm gonna start with just a tiny little bit and keep an eye on it. I don't want it to be too liquidy. So if I need more water, I may even add a little bit of chicken broth. We'll just kind of keep an eye on it and see how it goes. All right, I'm gonna give this a stir. I have some errands I'm running today. I'm actually working on our fall front porch. So how perfect will this dinner be? After I get our porch done up for fall to come have some chili-ish beans with some Fritos, sour cream. That's gonna be so good. So I'm just gonna let this cook on low. Pretty much it's all cooked. I just want it to kind of thicken and all those flavors to marry together. So I'm just gonna put it on low for about 3 hours. And like I said, just check on it and we will go from there. I just got home. This is smelling so good in the house. It's pretty much done, but I'm gonna add just a little bit of chicken broth. I'm gonna turn it up to high and let it keep simmering just for about 30 minutes or so, and then we'll be ready to eat. but I think it's gonna be really, really good. We're all starving, so we're all sitting down to eat. I just tried it. It's really good. I think it's perfect with the ground turkey. I mean, you really can't even tell, especially with all that stuff mixed. Really creamy. Love those corn chips in there. It's not spicy at all. Even using those green chilies like I did. What do y'all think?
It's good. It's so good.
Everybody like it?
Yeah.
Good.
I would totally eat this again.
So, yeah, y'all try this. Really easy. And this will be really something good to do camping too. Do it in the crock pot or doing whatever, especially in the fall. Really good. Hey y'all, so I'm about to start on my slow cooker meal for our supper tonight. And tonight I am making slow cooker bacon cheeseburger soup. How good does that sound? So I have most of my ingredients sitting out here to show y'all. The only thing I don't have out is my ground beef. Obviously we're gonna need some of that to make cheeseburger soup, but we also need some chicken broth, some potatoes, an onion. We're gonna shred up those carrots, a few tablespoons of butter. We have some bacon that I cooked this morning that we're gonna crumble up at the end. As far as seasonings, we have some dried basil, parsley, salt and pepper. We have some milk back here, and then we have a little over 2 cups of shredded cheese. The recipe calls for cheddar or pepper jack, so I thought why not just use a little bit of both. So that's what we're gonna do. So let's go ahead and get this cheeseburger soup started in the slow cooker. Recipe calls for 1 cup of shredded carrots. Now I could get out my grater, my shredder if I wanted to, but I think this is gonna be easier. I have already peeled my carrots, so I'm just gonna continue using my peeler just to kind of make these long strips, and then all I'll do is chop those up a little bit so they won't be quite as long. But this is gonna be so much easier than having to get out anything to actually shred. Okay, so like I said, I'm just gonna kind of chop these carrots up a little bit more. And then I have my little helper over here to the side. She wants to help me put all these carrots into the crock pot. So, chopped carrots going in the crock pot. Go ahead. How do you want to do it? You want to just dump them, kind of slide them in like that so they don't go everywhere. Here, hold it. Hold this too. Hold the board. There you go. Slide them all in.
It's easier when you do when you slide them off the board. It's easier so you won't have to carrot all over.
Mm-hmm.
Because water can stick to plastic and stuff.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's good. I'll chop the potatoes and you can put them in for me, okay?
Okay.
All right, next we're going to chop our potatoes. The recipe calls for 3 small potatoes to be peeled, but we're using yellow potatoes and the skin is very soft on there, so I'm actually not gonna peel them. I just washed them up really good. We're just gonna cube them up, and my assistant's gonna throw them in the crock pot for us. So we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of dried parsley.
Karen. That's called a Karen.
Right?
Yeah. She would not want to feed her family good.
All right, sprinkle that. Okay, and then next we're also gonna add a teaspoon of dried basil. All right, sprinkle that around. Good, okay. And then next we're gonna add about 3 cups of chicken broth right on top. All right, so the original recipe says about 45 minutes before serving your soup, that's when you're gonna brown up your ground beef. So instead of putting my onion in earlier in the crock pot, I thought I would add it with my ground beef here at the end to kind of help season it up. I think that'll be really good. Obviously, if you don't like onion or anything else in the recipes that I talk about, just leave those parts out. All right, my ground beef is all nice and browned. So I'm just gonna bring it over here. Put it in the crock pot with everything else. Also, at this point, I'm gonna add in that bacon that I already had cooked up from earlier. And I'm just gonna go ahead and give this a little stir. This already is looking really good, but we haven't even got to the best part yet. We're gonna make this super creamy. Super creamy and cheesy because hello, cheeseburger soup. All right, so to that same pan, I brought it back over here to the stove. We're gonna add our butter, 3 tablespoons of butter. Gonna let that melt, and then I'm gonna whisk in some flour and some milk. This is the part that's gonna make our soup super duper creamy. Then next, we're gonna add all of that cheese. Like I said, I'm using half pepper jack and half sharp cheddar. You can probably use whatever kind of cheese that you want. I have to say, this is looking so good already. And the original recipe says to just keep this on low for about 20 more minutes. So I'm just gonna keep it on low for until we eat. Honestly, it might be another hour, but I think it'll still be fine. I was thinking I may have to add some more milk if it wasn't creamy enough, but I think it's gonna be perfect.
It's really good. I like the bacon in it.
Yeah? Does it taste like a cheeseburger kinda?
It does.
You like the potatoes? It's kinda like cheeseburger and fries. Do you like it?
Yes, I love it. It's so
Good. All right, just tried it. It's really good. I'm all for a good soup, especially something different. And to me, it's like a potato soup with more flavor and then obviously ground beef in it. So definitely really filling because you got the ground beef and the potatoes. I like it. I think this will go in our soup rotation. What do you guys think?
It's a soup repertoire.
Into our soup repertoire. Also, I just had to say, definitely pick up some French baguette bread and slice it up to serve with it. It's really good, and it's kind of like the bun piece of your bacon cheeseburger, and it really does add to the flavor. We're dipping our bread in it. So good. All right, y'all, that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed. Let me know down below which of these recipes you think you might try. Also, if you're new here, I would love to have you subscribe before you go. I hope you guys are all doing amazing, and I will see y'all real soon in the next video. Bye, y'all.